Hey everyone, just giving an update on the route building tool. There's been a lot of feedback and usage, and it's been quite exciting. Um, so a few changes that have been made. The canvas width and height section has been added here, and essentially what that does is you can set what you want the width and height to be, and then when you select a background image, it scales that image to be the size of the canvas. This was because some people had these massive images and they're like, oh, this isn't feasible. They wanted to shrink it down to the ideal size. Another change that I did was I added this undo and redo button, which is really useful if you make a mistake. So if I put these lines down by accident, I can just get rid of them. If I put this down in the wrong position, if it's like slightly off, I can go, oh, that's not right. That's not right. The other thing that I did was when I'm drawing a line, now if I move my mouse back onto the screen, it's not still drawing. And the other thing that I did was when you minimize and maximize the screen again, it actually re-renders everything. Before it was like showing a blank screen. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of a code walkthrough to talk about how I actually implemented these features. So here's my code base. This is the JavaScript file where most of the logic happens. I'm just going to go through each of the features individually. So the first one is this visibility change event listener for the window. And essentially I'm just checking, like, does the canvas and the context exist? So that's this part here. Is there actually any changes that have happened to the canvas? If no changes have happened, you don't need to re-render anything. And is the document's visibility state set to visible? So we don't want to re-render this if the screen is minimized. And if so, we just put the image data, the most recent or the current state, back into the canvas and redraw it. Now, this page show event is similar, except it's when the page is being shown rather than the visibility changing. So a lot of the time when this gets activated, it will be through a browser back button or forward button, etc. When the page loads, etc. Now, the other thing I did was the drawing tool. Once it goes off the edge, it stops drawing and comes back. That was implemented in this new event listener called mouse out. And I'm essentially, if I'm in the pencil tool and it's outside of the canvas, I'm essentially just drawing the line. And if it's painting, saving the state to the history, saying painting to false. This has a couple of small issues that can happen, which is like if I'm drawing fast, you can see here, there's a little bit of a gap. Not a huge issue though. I can get around and fix that later. Now, next thing is how did I actually implement the undo and redo state? So I have this new variable called history, which is an array, and another one called current state index. So this current state index is tracking where you are within history. And it starts off at the first element. And as you make changes and push things to the stack, then your current state index gets incremented and is always at that endpoint. Now, the only time this current state index is not at the endpoint is when you've pressed undo. Now, if you put another thing here, now it's at the end again, because what I've done is actually cut off the end and then push the new state there. So you've essentially created a new branch and deleted that alternate history. I have these two functions, these two main functions. One is undo and redo button click. And essentially with the undo button click, it's essentially checking if the current state is greater than or equal to, is greater than 0, sorry. And then it's reverting the current state to the previous state and redrawing the canvas with the state that I've saved in history. There's the redo is essentially doing the same thing, except it's seeing if current state is not at the end of the list, and if it's not at the end, it's essentially incrementing, getting that state, redrawing it, and then there's this other function here, which is update, undo, redo actions, and that is essentially just checking like, are you at the latest point? If you're at the latest point, then you can't redo. Are you at the very first point? If you are, you can't undo. That's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, wants to better understand any of the design decisions that I made or how I've implemented it, happy to answer anything. Thanks for checking it out. See ya.